Hi, everyone, and welcome to our introduction to interviewing. Today, we will go over the different types of interviews, how best to prepare for interviews, and resources to help you practice your interview skills. Before you get to the point of interviewing, there is a process that each applicant goes through. First, you have to find the job to apply for. We recommend using online resources like Handshake, LinkedIn, and Glassdoor. Once you've identified a position, you'll apply. This generally entails submitting an application online with a resume, sometimes a cover letter. Next, you'll receive a response from an employer. If it's a positive response, you will schedule your interview. They may ask that you fill out an assessment at some point in the process. These assessments may be personality or skill-based. Once you've gone through the interview and assessment process, the final step is the employer's hiring decision. Once your application is in, you will generally hear from an employer in the following weeks. We all hope for a good response, but we do need to be prepared for a no or lack of response at all. If the employer does call you to set up an interview, make sure you get all of the necessary instructions, including where you're going, what time you need to be there, who you'll be interviewing with, etc. In a later slide, we will talk about what to research ahead of time. It's also important to note that you should always arrive for an interview 15 minutes early. There are several types of interviews, but the most common include phone or video interviewing and in-person interviews. A standard one-on-one interview is just like it sounds. You will be interviewing with one person, either on-site at the company or on campus in the Career Center. A phone interview is a popular way to interview candidates for a first round. This is usually a screening interview with human resources. For a phone interview, you want to make sure you are in a quiet place with no distractions and strong cell phone service. You can have your resume, the job description, and notes in front of you to help during your interview. Speak clearly and try not to go too fast. Video interviews are becoming increasingly more popular. They give the recruiter a better sense of the candidate than a phone interview, and they are cost-effective if a candidate lives far away. When doing a video interview, make sure you are head to toe in professional dress. Make sure you have a professional, appropriate backdrop and that your internet connection is strong. Like a phone interview, you can have notes or your resume out of the frame of the camera so you can glance down if you need to. Case interviews are less common, but for some competitive positions like consulting or investment banking, they are the norm. In a case interview, you are given a business case and a set amount of time to read over it and come up with solutions or answers. You then present your ideas to the interviewers. Panel interviews are much like standard in-person interviews. You're just being asked questions by multiple people, generally between 2 and 4. The key to a panel interview is to make sure you are engaging everyone in the room. If one person asks you a question, make sure you are answering to the group, keeping eye contact with each person as you go through the answer so that everyone feels included. Group interviews are the least common interview you will face. They are often reserved for retail and on-campus positions. In a group interview, you are asked questions along with other people interviewing for the same position. It's important to listen carefully to the question and the answers from the other candidates so that you can adapt your answers accordingly. In the Career Center, we can help you prepare for each of these types of interviews. Before you show up for your interview, you need to do some prep. First, you need to do your research. You will see on this slide a list of things you should look up about the company. Knowing these things will help you stand out, as many candidates do not do thorough company research. You will also be able to answer questions in a knowledgeable way and ask questions related to your research. In addition to doing research online, talk to people who currently work for the company or who have worked there in the past. We also recommend that you practice your interview skills before the real deal. You can schedule mock interviews or interview prep appointments with our coaching team in the Career Center. The more you interact with employers through clubs or organizations, job shadowing, or corporate site visits, the more comfortable you'll be with the process overall. So it's the day before your interview. Are you prepared? Check the following things off your prep list. Number 1, my professional suit is pressed. Number 2, I have extra copies of my resume printed. Number 3, my Padfolio is ready to go with my documents, a notepad, pen, and the questions I'm going to ask at the end of my interview. Number 4, I know where I'm going and how long it will take me to get there because I've practiced the drive. Number 5, I'm going to be kind and courteous from the moment I arrive on site because anything I do or say will get back to the person making the hiring decision. It's the day of the interview. You will greet your interviewer with a smile, good eye contact, and a handshake if appropriate. You will engage in small talk about the weather or sports or whatever is interesting at the time. The formal interview will begin, and the employer will ask you questions about your background, career goals, and work experience. At the end, they will always leave time for you to ask questions as well. There are a few types of interview questions, but the most popular type is the behavioral question. This type of question is used because it provides a great baseline across candidates and is a way to prompt you to tell stories in an open-ended way. The best way to answer a behavioral question is with the STAR method. STAR stands for situation, task, action, result. It's a way for you to think about telling a story with a strong beginning, middle, and end. You will set up the situation, lay out the task at hand, talk about the specific action you took in this scenario, and finally end on the result. It's important to use I statements versus we statements. The employer cares about your contribution and impact, not necessarily the team's. Quantify if you can when answering the question, and be as detailed as possible while staying under 3 minutes per answer. Here's a list of sample behavioral questions. Let's answer one together. The first question is, tell me about a time when you were asked to present a topic to a group. How did you prepare? The situation. This past fall, I was in an international business class in which we were asked to write a paper and present our findings at the end of the semester. The paper and presentation made up 25% of my grade, so it was very important that I did well. Task. The assignment asked that we identify a country and research their economy. I picked Thailand because I had the opportunity to visit Bangkok in high school, and I was very interested in learning more about their economy and culture. Action. Utilizing online resources such as the World Bank and Heritage Center, I wrote a paper and put together a presentation on the country's social and economic development over the past 5 decades. I presented my research to the 50 other students in my class and was able to include Thai currency that I had from high school. Normally, I am a bit shy about public speaking, but I felt very confident going into this presentation because I was well prepared. Result. My professor gave me an A on my presentation, and in the feedback I received, he noted that I came across as very knowledgeable and passionate about the topic. He also noted that my presentation was one of the best researched in the class. When it comes to interviewing, there are things that you can control. What you're wearing, how well you've researched the company and the role, your enthusiasm and attitude, how much sleep you've hopefully gotten the night before. And all you can do is prepare the best you can for the things you can't control. You've practiced your interviewing skills, and you know your elevator pitch, and you've looked at sample interview questions. Before you leave the interview, know what happens next. When will the company be making a hiring decision? Will there be additional rounds of interviews? Make your case. Reiterate your interest in and enthusiasm for the position. Ask if there is any desired skills that are a must for this position that you haven't touched on. This will give you the opportunity to go back and give them additional information. Finally, make sure you send in a thank you note. Will it make or break your chances of getting the job? Probably not, but could it push you over the edge if they are deciding between you and one other candidate? It could. The thank you note can be handwritten or emailed. Either is totally fine. Just make sure you send one. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation, and please contact us at the Career Center if you have any questions or would like to practice your interview skills.